formally declare a state of emergency on Nigeria's water supply, sanitation and hygiene sector.
Special privilege and pleasure to officially unveil the logo of the Clean Nigeria and Open
support the efforts to ensure that Nigerians have access to good water supply and sanitation facilities.
While it may not be said that any single being was the first to discover water, as is the case with other natural resources, the role this life-giving liquid plays in human health, sanitation and hygiene is immeasurable. Whatever task we may choose to assign to water, human beings have come to realize that this life-saving resource is not one to be mismanaged or underutilized. And it is against this backdrop that those saddled with managing water need to be carefully and diligently selected, which wasn't the case in the past. The Buhari administration seems to understand this issue, and therefore meticulously selected and appointed as Minister for Water Resources a professional engineer with track record and knowledge of the sector. The coming of Engineer Suleiman Adamu, FNSE, to the exalted office of Minister of Water Resources brought about a dramatic change in the sector. As an astute engineer imbued with necessary professional qualifications, Adamu assumed office as minister with the benefit of hindsight of a keen outside observer. The reputable engineer from the private sector and fellow of the Nigerian Society of Engineers swung into action to reposition the ministry to be result-based and performance-oriented. While warmly welcomed by members of staff of the ministry in November 2015, he knew very well that beyond the pleasantries or a warm welcome, the task ahead was daunting. The minister realized that the input of other stakeholders was necessary in this direction and called for the assemblage of relevant participants from across the country in a retreat in the Federal Capital Territory. After a careful study of key issues, ongoing and abundant projects were identified as the major challenge to the development and progress of the water sector. Subsequently, a bold and pragmatic plan was developed to address the challenges. A roadmap to facilitate the development of the sector also followed immediately.
Within the roadmap, one cardinal thing that he did was that there must be technical audits of all these uncompleted or abandoned projects nationwide. And within my department, 35 number projects were studied. They were audited. And then after the auditing, he did another thing, he prioritized them. He prioritized them into high, medium, and low, and then we focus on the one that are high priority.
Indeed, continuation of ongoing projects is a policy direction for which the Buhari administration stands apart. And 116 viable water supply, sanitation, dams and irrigation projects were thus prioritized for completion.
All these projects, after we audited them and prioritized them, one of the key criterion that we used was how much beneficial is that project to the community. And on the basis of that, we selected the projects that we felt we should continue with because of the tremendous benefit that they will have to the people. If you leave those projects, you abandon them and start new ones, chances are that you will not be able to accomplish your own. You may not even finish your own. So what have you done? The other ones have not been finished. The ones you want to do have not been finished. And it becomes a vicious cycle. So it was just a professional judgment on our part, and we're very happy we did it.
In no time, the turnaround has been evident. Out of 35 abundant water supply projects, 13 have been completed.
We have projects like Zobe, water supply project in Katsina, Dutz and Mark Katsina, supplying Katsina with water. And this is a project that was started in 1992. But alhamdulillah, we're able to finish it just before the advent of the COVID-19 lockdown. We also have projects like Kwantagora Auna Dam and Irrigation Project, which was started in 1987 and abandoned. We're back on track. It's about 60–70% now. Of course, we finished also projects like Kashimbila Dam and the hydropower, 40 megawatts hydropower project. Some projects like Urara hydropower, we're waiting for concessioning. We managed to do that. We've also brought about new other projects like Zungeru Ushishi Water Supply Project, Ota Water Supply Project, Adada Dam in Enugu State. Which else? Ile-Ife Dam, Ogbese Dam in Ekiti State. There are quite a number of them. Mangu Dam in Plateau. And so far we've finished more than 20, I think, projects out of the 116. Although out of the 116, we also, I told you, we prioritized. So among the priority projects, we've finished quite a lot.
3 years after a partnership agreement with the state government, the Zobe Regional Water Supply Project is set to live out its dream. The treatment plant installed with its components: aerator, clarifier filter tank, 10 million litre clear water tank, pump house, and 2 6 MVA power substations are now breathing life into Katsina as well as Dutz-Amma environs.
This project is a regional water scheme project. It's going to serve 6 to 7 local governments area of Katsina State. One is Dutz-Amma, Katsina, Kankia, Charanchi, Safana, and Kurfi, and lastly the Patagara local government areas.
For the 3 local government areas currently benefiting, it is a new lease of life with easy access to water.
I want to take the opportunity to thank the federal government for this very big intervention. And the water supply demand for Katsina is probably in the region of about 150 million liters per day. We are getting our 70 million liters from Zobe. And also we are doing another intervention in Abuja, which we are expecting another 50 million liters.
Not too far away in the neighboring state of Jigawa lies the Kazaure Water Supply Scheme, conceived to assuage the thirst of the residents of a historic kingdom. The people of Kazaure have for decades known what scarcity of safe water feels like, as decent and clean pipe-borne water was a challenge to the town. Jikarate Water Project no longer suffices, as the ancient community's water demands have outgrown its initial 5 million litre per day capacity. But not to worry. The ministry landed with a new project. A water treatment plant constructed with various components that would make the previous scarcity history. 10 million litres per day would be more than enough for the population of an honourable minister's hometown. A 2 million capacity reservoir is also situated at the hilltop of Tsohon Kefi to supply water by gravity to the main town of Kazauri.
The main thing here is to generate water from the intake and treat it here within this the treatment plant, and thereafter send the water to the hill tank in Kazauri town.
Engineer Suleiman Adamu's enthusiasm and eagerness to turn the sector around is infectious. Series of brainstorming sessions with participants drawn from state governments and development partners for an update about the water situation in Nigeria continued, and the gathering finally came to a unanimous conclusion that the water sector was in crisis and an urgent intervention was needed. But all hope is not lost, as they also reached a consensus to chart in a new course for this important sector. November 8, 2018, signaled an epoch in the annals of the sector. President Muhammadu Buhari demonstrated the biggest commitment to the sector with the expression of the political will identified to have been missing in the recipe for a purposeful turnaround. Representatives of state governments, international and development partners and other relevant stakeholders converged on the banquet hall of the presidential villa in Abuja. They witnessed the presidential launch of the National Water, Sanitation and Hygiene Wash Action Plan. This came with another decisive step, declaration of state of emergency on the sector. The National Wash Action Plan is a 13-year revitalization strategy with a central aspiration of ensuring access to water and sanitation for all by the year 2030 through a strengthened federal-state partnership.
I call on all state governments to complement this effort by according the sector similar recognition to enable us work together to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals targets for water supply, sanitation, and hygiene by 2030. Henceforth, federal government support to state governments will be based on their commitment to implement the national water supply, sanitation, and action plan in their respective states, and to end open defecation